Okay guys, welcome to a new video. Today we will look to the video I caught every Pokemon, shiny Pokemon in Ruby and Sapphire before each gym, a Professor Oak challenge by Chaotic. So we will subscribe, like this video, and we will watch it. Full credits to the creator. I don't did anything about this video. It's not mine. Full credits to the creator in the description. Once again, check him out, subscribe.
Shiny Pokemon. There are Pokemon fans white whale when they come across them, being a 1 in 8,192 chance in Gens 1 to 5. They're extremely rare and tend to be a trainer's prized friend if they come across any. Because of that, the Meatball Man here decided, you know what? I want a whole game's worth of prized friends. That's why I decided to catch every single shiny Pokemon before each gym in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. From Mudkip to Rayquaza, every last one of these I'm planning on capturing a shiny variant of. How long does it take? How much sanity will I have after this? Well, the answers would be my entire lifetime and none if I wasn't smart about it, but we'll get into it shortly. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment down below with a prediction on how much in-game time it'll take for me to complete this challenge. But with
at least over 800 hours, I guess? Like, it's 1 in 8k, and a shiny is... If you have a bad luck, you can go, like, 14k dry, and I don't know if he's gonna do speed up, or just playing regularly. If he's playing just normally, it will be taking about 2 years, I guess. Speed up, it will take less because you have way more encounters. But we will see, and I think I need to go to the toilet halfway in the video, but you don't see that.
With that, let's get into it. So if you're a long-time watcher of this channel, you'll remember I began my Pokemon Challenge journey over half a decade ago with the Professor Oak's Challenge.
Oh!
That's basically what this is, except with shiny Pokemon.
Okay.
There's only 2 rules, those being that you must capture and evolve every Pokemon possible before each gym badge, and no interacting with other games. But I have an ace up my sleeve. See, when I boot up the game, I have a message telling me my save battery is dry and time-based events can no longer occur. But that's what I want, as the smart way of being able to complete this challenge is through doing what's known as RNG manipulation. In case you don't know, RNG manipulation can be summed up as doing things in a video game to influence the RNG, or random number generator, to give you a desired outcome. This is only doable because Pokemon doesn't actually use RNG, rather it uses PRNG, or pseudo-RNG. Each time the game boots or is soft reset, a number known as a seed is used, and in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, this seed changes every minute. However, with a dry battery, I can always make sure the seed stays at 5A0, giving me an entirely predictable line of RNG thanks to the help of a software called Pokefinder. Simply put, now every single shiny frame is predetermined, whether it's a static Pokemon like the starter, the gift cast form, the mighty Groudon, or the roaming Latios. All of these can be shiny by hitting a specific frame of the game from either startup or soft reset. Now mind you, this still isn't easy, as GBA Pokemon games run at 60 FPS. Due to this, I'm basically aiming to hit a 1 in 60th of a second window for every Pokemon in the game. Mind you, this is over 100 different catches I'm going to have to do for this. Due to this, I'm going to have to reset a lot to make sure I get them, but to offset the amount of time between resets, I also need to hit a good trainer ID. There's 65,536 different trainer IDs and the same number of secret IDs, which is a number you can't normally access in-game. However, by doing a manipulation right at the very start of the game, I can get a desired trainer and secret ID to give me a reasonably early shiny frame. For this, I wanted to go for the trainer's secret ID combo of 04397 and 33270. The way I can get this is by using Pokefinder, typing this ID in, and seeing that the only frame this combo is possible on in the first 100,000 frames of startup is 6347. It's not that easy though, I can't just hit A on that last text box of Professor Birch's preamble at that frame. The calculation of trainer ID takes exactly 75 frames, so I basically have to hit it on frame 6272 to get the desired outcome. Very easy to get to, only a minute and 44.53 seconds between resets if I don't hit it on the first try. Now, that might seem crazy to try to do, but by using another software called Eon Timer, I'm able to plug in the number 6272, giving me a countdown and audio cue to hit the frame accurately rather than just blindly pressing A, so this is completely doable on actual hardware, but you'll still want a computer for both Pokefinder and Eon Timer if you want to try this yourself, both of which I'll leave links to in the description. Thankfully, this manipulation only takes me 2 attempts, as the first I hit frame 6344, only 3 frames off, but that's just the first of over 100 1/60th of a second butting timings that I'm gonna probably mess up in this run. But with the second one, I'm able to show the trainer ID and hit that 04397 trainer ID, making me ready to go on with the game itself. Also, I suppose here's a fun drinking game for you. Take a sip of water for every time I say the word frame in this video. I guarantee you will be unable to sit through the entirety of it without having to take a piss. Lord knows if I made it an actual drinking.
What this is kind of scary, since I just said a few minutes ago that I need to go to the toilet in like probably halfway or something in this video, or even less. That's actually kind of scary that he just said it.
Gabe, I think most of my viewers would keel over dead of liver poisoning, so let's not do that. God, I'm already going off the rails in this video. However, now with this trainer and secret ID, I know the first shiny frame is 2,443 for static Pokemon, so that's all legendaries, starters, gifts, as well as various shiny frames for wild Pokemon. But I've probably overloaded your brain with information starting out here, so I'll just talk about certain aspects of the RNG manips when they appear. Since the battery is dry, though, I do need to make sure I set the clock at the beginning of the game between 3 AM and 9 AM so that Shoal Cave is at low tide. Otherwise, I won't be able to obtain Snow Run and therefore fail this challenge immediately. From there, we're good to head into May's house and into Route 101 for our first shiny Pokemon, Mudkip. As stated before, our first static shiny frame is 2,443, but there's a 2-frame offset when selecting your starter. So I plug in 2441 into Eon Timer, and lo and behold, the first one... It's not shiny, of course not. Here I hit a relaxed nature, which is 3 frames after what I was aiming for, so after recalibrating the timer, I go for it again, and bam, there's that purple Mudkip with a nice golden tail, adding our first Pokemon to the total.
That's kind of nuts.
This is actually more satisfying to me than, you know, going for the random 1 in 8,192 chance, because it actually takes skill. I have to be able to hit something at such an insane human reaction timing to be able to get it, and therefore cut down the amount of time that I am looking for these Pokemon, so I'm actually kind of excited to do this challenge. For context, I used to do a lot of speedrunning of various games back when I was in middle and high school. So frame-perfect inputs are something I'm decently used to.
It's not something. It's not something I prefer.
Time normally being on average 0.2 seconds, but when that's a 1/5 of a second while I'm trying to hit a 1/60th of a second window, I'm bound to make mistakes. But with this Poochyena taken out and Professor Birch saved, I'm clear to head into Route 103, take on May, and receive the Pokedex, truly beginning this challenge. Now you may be asking, Meatball, how are you going to go after the wild Pokemon? Well, that's a great question, though it'll take me a minute to get to. Before we worry about that, I need to get Pokemon with the pickup ability, grabbing a squad of 5 Zigzagoon, as each has the ability pickup, which is a 10% chance of picking up an item after the battle, with this whole grid showing exactly what items are available. However, the one that I am most interested in is the 10% chance of being a rare candy, essentially giving me a 1% chance of a rare candy after every battle per Pokemon, since that's 10% times 10% times 5, which is 5%, or 1 in every 20 battles, I'll be able to get at least 1 rare candy. This speeds up grinding exponentially, especially for Pokemon in this section, such as with the level 40 Exploud, level 36 Swampert and Slacking, level 30 Gardevoir. There's a lot of Pokemon that are very high level in this section, and the highest level Pokemon we have access to in the wild that is repeatable is level 8 Whismur. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Now to answer the question, the way we'll be able to get wild Pokemon and accurately hit shiny frames is through Surskit on Route 102. I just run around training Mudkip while triggering pickup over and over again until running into one, which takes a pretty long while. But during this time, I figured there's no better time to talk about today's sponsor, Manta Sleep. Now, hold on, I actually asked for this one. I recently caught one of their ads in fellow creator Gilly the Kid's video on Bubsy Games, and I thought, oh, this looks really nice. And thankfully, we were able to reach out and they sent me their Sound Sleep Mask. It has 2 layers, one for a normal lightweight sleep mask with Velcro eye covering so you can adjust them depending on your eye placement on your face, so that you don't have anything touching your eyes while you attempt to sleep. I've used cheap masks in the past that do touch my eyes, and they prevented me from being able to sleep properly. And sometimes I just need to take a nap during the day because I'm pretty much burnt out from being able to do these videos or something at that moment, and I need some sort of respite. Or I'm going to sleep at like 3 a.m. and need to get up at 11 a.m., yet the sun comes up halfway through my sleep, and I'm unable to sleep through the rest of the way due to it being
that's fucked up, brother.
The second layer also is able to be attached via Velcro, so you're able to adjust it how you want, and it has razor-thin Bluetooth earbuds that allow for you to listen to whatever you want while you're falling asleep, whether it be ambient sounds, or some bumbler like MBT sacking Doug Zeef with dinosaur combos.
He's a nice
different
mate,
ones.
man.
They really
He's a nice normal summon too.
Okay, fuck you. I knew that you.
I'm gonna be real with you. It's just over.
I've been using it every night since I've got it, and you can get your own Manta Sleep Mask by using my link in the description below and using code MEATBALL at checkout for 10% off your order.
Amazing.
Thank you so much to Manta Sleep for sponsoring today's video. Now back
It's
to
interesting, Manta Sleep.
Wow, it took so long for me to find this Surskit that Mudkip evolved into Marshtomp at level 16 just a few encounters before finding it. Pretty good timing if I do say so myself. Now I just need to bring it up to level 13 so that it learns the move Sweet Scent. This doesn't take long thanks to the trainers in this section, and now I can control encountering a Pokemon with just a single A-press, all while having a 100% chance of encountering rather than leaving it up to chance by blindly moving through the grass. Route 101's obviously my first target with 4 Pokemon I need to grab. I decided to take on Wurmple first since it has the furthest frame to encounter it at 6,047, but we need 2 of them. I can't get 2 of the same Wurmple as hitting the same freight results in the same PID or personality ID. It's a little bit complex, but I've included Bulbapedia's explanation of it on screen now, but I'll be grabbing the ones on frame 6,047 and 10,803, and if they both happen to evolve into the same cocoon, I can simply grab the missing one from Petalburg Woods as to not waste time. I should also note that in general, Sweet Scent also has a buffer time to hit the proper frame of encounter, with 261 frames while outside and 268 in caves, so I'll be referring to the frame numbers with those buffers already subtracted off for future reference. Unfortunately, the first Wurmple took a whopping 13 attempts to finally nail the frame-perfect input, putting our total up to 3. I was a bit exasperated having to wait that long between encounters, so I just swapped over to getting Zigzagoon and Poochyena, with the former being on either frames 2127 or 2131,
It's still insane
and the latter on
that
2177.
you can
Ruby
just
and Sapphire's RNG
play like
is
that.
a bit wonky with the way some personality IDs get generated multiple times right next to each other, but that's just one of the reasons I chose this ID, since that would make it a little easier to hit those frames, as I either can be right on time or 4 frames late and still get a desired outcome. Zigzagoon took 5 attempts to nail, while Poochyena took 4. Not too bad if I do say so
That's
myself.
pretty good though.
Heck, it's even better with the second Wurmple, as it only takes 2 attempts to hit the frame, letting me move on to Route 103. There's only one Pokemon we need here, that being Wingull on frame 2177 once again, as it's in the 11th encounter slot, taking once again only 2 attempts. Route 102 is next with 3 encounters, those being Surskit on frame 2177, taking 4 attempts, Seedot
All
on
of that
frame
shiny.
2127, taking 2
Seedot
attempts,
sucks.
and Ralts on frame 318,069. Nice, but also, wow, really not nice. I did not anticipate on encounter slot 9 being so late on this trainer in Secret ID. I guess it was bound to happen on one of the encounter slots, but that's 5,301.15 seconds,
That's
or 88.35 minutes in between attempts. Thankfully, there's only like
That's huge.
one other encounter on slot 9 that I'm going to have to worry about in this run, but that's still quite a while. Fortunately, it only took a single attempt to find it, though it did add a significant damper
Oh.
on my in-game time for completion. Route
I mean,
104
it's still
next with
insane.
only a single
You could have
Pokemon
missed
that I
it.
need here in Talo on frame 2131, taking only 4 attempts to hit our shiny. Only 3 areas left for pre-badge 1, the first being Petalburg Woods with 2 new Pokemon, potentially 3 if we need that extra cocoon, but we'll get to that during the grinding portion if needed. Those are Shroomish on frame 2131 with only 2 attempts, and Slackoth on 2177 with a first try frame perfect encounter. Route 116 is our last route of this section with 2 new encounters, those being Skitty on frame 2177, unfortunately taking 7 attempts, but that just means I have to lock in for Ninkata on frame 80,466. Not nearly as bad as Ralts, but having encounter slot 4 being that late on those as well is pretty unfortunate. But with it taking that long for an attempt, you know I got it in one shot, easy as pie.
Oh.
Well, if pi was 0.0166 repeating rather than 3.1415. Don't you folks just love math? I know I do, and that's why I was the school nerd when I was a kid. Upon reflection, though, I should have waited for Talo on this route instead of 104, due to it being up to level 8 on frame 2131 rather than level 4, but I'm not used to having this much control over the game's RNG. It's honestly a little bit of a power trip. Last but not least, though, is Rust Turf Tunnel, containing only Whismur, and of course, I had the forethought to wait for this as a level 8 encounter on frame 2124, with a level 7 on 2120. I do manage to hit the level 8 on my 3rd attempt, finishing the encounters for this section with only 3 hours and 51 minutes on the in-game time.
It's a little bit
but of course, that's
time profit.
These suckers. First up is Zigzagoon, and due to it also having pickup, I decided to throw in Marshtomp onto the team so that I had 5 pickup Pokemon while still being able to switch train the early levels. Thanks to stab normal moves though, once Zigzagoon hits level 13, it's pretty capable of 1 to 2-shotting every Whismur in Rust Turf Tunnel, the main hub for training due to their higher levels and EXP yield. Now of course it would be a waste to evolve Zigzagoon now, I just wanted to get it to a point to where it can switch train other Pokemon while still acting as a pickup user.
That's smart.
Wormpole so that after a few minutes it can evolve into Cascoon at level 7, then into Dustox at level 10. Also, during this time, I realized that pickup is not only useful for rare candies, but for super potions to continuously heal without having to go back to the Pokemon Center.
That's what I
Rocks
first
also help
thought.
to reduce the amount of healing items I need to use with my higher level Pokemon, flinching the Whismurs on occasion until they're capable of one-shotting, as well as PP ups for more move usage and even less PC visits. Pretty handy if you ask me, but what isn't handy is the second Wormpole also evolving into Cascoon. Well, I guess it's back to Petalburg Woods for Silcoon, and of course it's an encounter slot 4 at frame 80,466 again.
I mean,
couldn't have gotten 2 Silcoons and gone for Cascoon on frame 2127, but whatever, I guess. I'm just glad it only took 2 attempts to hit the frame for Silcoon, taking only a little bit of time of switch training before it evolves into Beautifly at level 10. Next up, Poochyena has to get to level 18 with only 2 attacking moves.
I don't know how long this will gonna take for him, since it's so rare.
Thankfully, I can mitigate trips
way
to Pokemon Center by
to
using
do
Howl
this.
for Tackle, increasing the attack stat and getting 1 and 2 shots that wouldn't be possible otherwise. So with those and switch training, we're able to score Mightyena. Next up is Wingull, needing to reach level 25 with once again only 2 attacking moves. Water Gun and Wing Attack are at least stab, and Supersonic can help carry those 2 shots that were super close to being 1-shots, though I'd rather just suck it up and do a few extra Pokemon Center visits rather than hoping for a 55% accurate Supersonic, then a Confusion Self-Hit. PP ups do mitigate this a bit by bringing Water Gun up to 40 and Wing Attack to 52 points, but it still takes a decent amount of time for Wingull to evolve into Pelipper. Shroomish has an even tougher time keeping up in terms of strength, with only the 20 power absorb and 35 power tackle up until level 16 when it finally learns Mega Drain. But with only 10 PP increased to 16 with PowerPoint ups, there's a choice of Pokemon Center visits or using my plethora of pickup super potions, potions purchased from selling pickup nuggets, and full restores so that I can continue to struggle these Pokemon to death because it's a higher power move at 50 compared to everything else, as even Mega Drain is only 40 power. Once we hit level 22 and get Headbutt though, it's the home stretch as it's only a single level until Shroomish evolves into Breloom. Ralts is even worse though, as we have no attacking moves until level 6 when it gets Confusion, which doesn't take long. And that's it. Nothing else until Kirlia, and even then it takes until level 26 to finally learn Psychic. No Psybeam, no Psywave, no coverage, there's basically nothing this Ralts can do. That's why we really need those rare candies to help pick up the slack. I don't want to waste any on levels that require less than 1000 EXP, so I just bring her up to level 18 before swapping out for C-Dot from the PC. And if you thought Ralts was bad, this one's even worse, as the
Bite.
only move we have access to that does damage is Bide, and at such low levels we're not surviving Uproar, so there's a lot more switch training here. I would say that hitting level 13 and learning Nature Power is a good thing, but considering A, it turns into Shadow Ball in caves and therefore is a ghost type move and can't hit Whismer, and B, in tall grass it turns into Stun Spore and can't damage anything, so I'm stuck switch training the entire time, even though I do attempt to force Bide so I can hold on to Zigzagoon's EXP just a little longer due to it already being at level 19. I do manage to hold out long enough so that Zigzagoon evolves into Linoon and C-Dot evolves into Nuzleaf back-to-back, adding 2 more to the total. Sursk gets up next and thankfully starts with its attacking moves of Bubble at level 1 and Quick Attack at level 7, but that's all it gets until evolving at level 22. So once again, I'm resorting to struggle for an even higher power move once Sursk gets high enough level to survive any attacks thrown at him, eventually bringing it up to level 19 before boxing it and swapping for Marshtomp once again. Simply put, Marshtomp has 4 great attacking moves already in Water Gun, Mud Shot, Mud Slap, and Tackle, and it's great for large stretches of time in Rust Turf Tunnel to generate rare candies. I'm aiming to get enough to finish off Ralts, Surskit, about 15 levels of Loudred, 10 levels of Marshtomp, and the entirety of Slackoff due to Truant being a very annoying ability, and it evolving into Vigoroth too late to matter. Though once I run out of power points, I just box it again and swap for Whismer. The only downside with Whismer is that despite having Stab, Pound, and Uproar from the get-go, all Whismer have the ability Soundproof, so Uproar does nothing, resulting in me going out on Route 116 to use the move and not make nearly as many frequent Pokemon Center visits. Astonish at level 11 also falls into this camp, as I'm basically only using it on the Nincada on Route 116, but we do get a bit of a saving grace in Howl at level 15, making Pound a much more consistent one-shot in Rust Turf Tunnel. From there, we're coasting until level 20, evolving into Loudred, then getting to level 23 before finishing it off with 17 rare candies to evolve into Exploud. I've got enough as well to top off Surskit, using 3 to evolve into Masquerain. I still have 35 rare candies by this point, and the last really easy Pokemon to evolve is Tailo, having access to Stab Peck from the get-go, Quick Attack at level 8, and Wing Attack at 13, so it's a breeze to bring it to level 22, evolving into Swellow. I even got another 12 rare candies during that grind, so I'm free to evolve Marshtomp into Swampert.
That's insane, though.
Hold off on Ralts for the time being, as I still have Nincada and Slackoff to take care of in terms of early levels. Nincada is a really big pain to try to evolve at this point, as it sits in the fluctuating EXP group and therefore takes the most amount of EXP for every level in the early stages. Pair that with mediocre moves like Scratch, Leech Life, and Fury Swipes, and we're in for a bad time. Thankfully though, Nincada does get access to Cut, which has been a pretty decently helpful move to extend my time in the cave.
Okay, before Nincada is evolving, he will box one of his Puchienas or Zigzagoons to get Zedinia as well, and I think if you have certain levels with Linoon and Zigzagoon, you increase their pickup ability loot table, but maybe it's newer gens, like how pickups work. This I know in BDSP, you will get the more rare items, how higher level you are. I don't know if it's the same case in Ruby and Sapphire. I don't think, but I think it's more new gen. But if it is, it's maybe good to switch train them as well,
rather than going back to the Pokemon Center. You can tell that EXP curve is pretty nasty though with the time lapse here of Nincada grinding, just taking a long chunk of time for 2 single levels in the early bits of the grind. So for my sanity, I just bring up Nincada to level 15, make sure to have a blank spot in my party as well as a Pokeball in my inventory, then use 5 rare candies to evolve into Ninjask, splitting off into a separate shiny Shedinja. Really happy this is an automatic shiny, by the way, and not something I have to RNG manipulate for. I still have 35 rare candies by this point though, so I just used 12 more to evolve Ralts into Curly at level 20, and into Gardevoir at 30, leaving just the doozy himself, Slackoff. Sure, stab normal moves are very helpful, including the Cut HM, but those Truant terms are really hard to maneuver around. Sometimes you just don't need to use a potion on that turn, but you do on the attacking turn, which leaves you on another Truant turn. Needless to say, this grind was not very kind to me. So once I had enough rare candies, I just got Slack off to level 15 and poured 21 whopping candies into him, evolving into Vigoroth at level 18 and into Slacking at level 36 to finish the section with a total of 35 Pokemon and a time of 19 hours and 21 minutes. Whew, would you believe I did this in one sitting? Sometimes my brain can be active for only 10 hours before wanting to sleep, or it goes into the other extreme.
Is it
where
with
I'm
speed
for
up?
More than 2 days straight.
It should be.
Thankfully,
Yeah,
though,
it's speed
I've
up.
been able to help control that with the power of gamer subs. I've been affiliated with them for about 2 months now, and have been using their AFK product to help my body produce its own melatonin instead of taking pills of it and reducing my body's ability to make it. And it's been very helpful in preventing those nasty bouts of insomnia that just ruin days upon days of productivity for me. Plus, the grape flavor is pretty nice. I also drink their normal non-caffeinated blends, so I'm not awake for a ridiculous amount of time. If you're interested in a keto-friendly, low-calorie alternative to sodas and energy drinks,
Just
I'd highly
casually
recommend their
using a
stuff. You can find
Swampert
the link in the
against
description.
Roxanne.
Use code ChaoticMeat at
Roxanne is
checkout
calling.
and get 10% off while giving me a little bit of a kickback, which really helps out the channel,
I
as
love
well as
the
the
red
timer for the
other
shiny franchise Nuzlocke Donathon that I've
Emerald
been doing.
Kaiso
I
memes.
know I haven't streamed it in a couple of weeks, and that's mostly because I've been waiting on a lot of hardware to ship, mostly an extra GBA for link cable support, a GB operator to move my saves from emulator to the actual cartridges themselves. There's a lot of stuff that I needed, including the Pokemon Coliseum bonus disc, because we're going to be shiny hunting for Jirachi. So definitely make sure to tune into the streams if you're interested in seeing a shiny mythical Pokemon. Shilling aside, we do plow on through Roxanne's Geodude to Nose Pass with Swampert, obtaining the Stone Badge, and continuing to a brand new pool of new encounters. Alright, now that we're done with the first badge,
you have Magikarp too. You have Sableye, Machop, Makuhita, Meditite.
But hey, at least the island houses the old rod, which means we have 3 encounters to take care of with it. 2 out of 3 are available just to the east of Dewford on Route 107, where I can find a Tentacool on frame 2388 at level 8, as there's no delay on fishing encounters, but I decided to wait until frame 11,888 for a level 10, taking 3 attempts. It's very much a minuscule difference of time save in terms of in-game time, since I'm waiting 2 minutes and 38 seconds extra for the extra 2 levels on this, but hey, if I can optimize, I may as well. Speaking of which, I can do the same for a level 10 Magikarp on frame 30,911. My earliest frame for this was 6308 for a level 5 or 11,048 for a level 7, so I figured what's the harm, and it only took 2 attempts to find. Now I could go for the Granite Cave encounters now, but I'd rather deliver the letter and get the EXP share immediately since I'm already going to the mainland for the 3rd Old Rod encounter, that being Goldeen in Petalburg City.
Oh yeah, Goldeen.
And oh boy, we have a new record for the most attempts needed on a single shiny Pokemon, that being a whopping 20. I ended up going for the level 10 Goldeen on frame 11,888 once again with the min-maxing of levels and avoiding more grinding than necessary, but having to wait 3 minutes and 8 seconds per attempt and nearly an hour and a half on one encounter was not very fun. But the feeling of relief I got once I managed to nail down that frame was pretty astronomical. Following a bunch of trainer encounters throughout Route 106, Dewford's Gym, Route 109, Slateport City, and Route 110, I managed to evolve Magikarp into Gyarados at level 20. It may seem strange to go so far ahead without taking out any encounters, but if I'm being honest, it was purely so I could feel more of a sense of progression, going further in the game rather than being stuck in Dewford. Heck, I'm able to take out the rest of the available trainers throughout this section by switch training Tentacool with Linoon, not nearly evolving it, but getting it high enough level to be able to fend for itself. Now then, catching time. Granite Cave is the host of numerous encounters, with the second basement floor including Zubat on frame 14,170, taking 2 soft resets, Aron on frame 10,780, also taking 2 soft resets, Abra on frame 2,120, taking only 1 reset and no failed captures, since thanks to going ahead into Mauville, I was able to pick up Nest Balls for the highest catch rate balls available so far.
Sick.
1 more for down here, and that's Mawile on frame 2170, taking 9 resets. A little rough, but since it was a short wait and nothing that needed to be evolved, I wasn't too worried about it. Moving up to the first basement floor, only Makihita needs to be captured here on frame 2124, thankfully with that highest level taking the 11th encounter slot and being super early, but still taking 6 attempts. Speaking of which, in case you're wondering why I didn't grab this from the trade in Rustboro City last section, all in-game trades are shiny locked in this game, so they don't apply for this challenge. Last but not least, on the surface floor, the bane of my existence, Geodude. Oh, not because of this game, because of the, 7 or 8 duplicate shiny Geodudes I got in my Gen 2 runs alone for the shiny franchise Nuzlocke. Suffice to say, I don't need any more of these for my eventual shiny living decks, but I've got to get it for this challenge, so I'll do so begrudgingly with only 2 soft resets on frame 2170. By the way, those streams will be returning tomorrow as of the uploading of this video.
I don't have much to say because half of what he's saying I don't really understand, and with the frames I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm just gathering the information in, and it's just incredible that is a way of shiny hunting like this. I wouldn't do anything like this. I like more the feeling of to see the shiny popping up and not counting frames and trying to be tick perfect on frames. Not my
I hope
style.
you guys look forward to that. Now we will have to come back here for one more encounter, but not until after Watson, as we need access to Rock Smash. Moving on up to Route 110, there's a whopping 5 new encounters.
He will count this part on the section of the second gym. Okay. I personally would have said this will be Watson split. Because you normally go to the gym right after the Rustboro or in from the cave. When you have done the cave, you go to the gym leader, and after that you go to this part game. So I guess you do you. I would have decided to do it later.
Here in 2 oddish on frame 2127, the first taking 3 attempts and the second only taking 1. Gulpin on 1 try on frame 2131. Plusle also in 1 try on frame 2177. Electrike in for the third
so
time in
good
a
shiny.
row, 1 try on frame 10,787, and Minun on frame 11,000.
That's a good shiny too.
With, you guessed it, 1 try. There's only one more route to cover here though, than that being 117 with 4 more encounters, only one of which needs to evolve.
I would have said this is also Watson split.
We've got Illumise on frame 2131, Roselia on 10,787, Meryl on 80,466, and Volbeat on 238,827. A little late on those there frames game, but hey, I managed to get all 4 of them in really quick fashion outside of that, so there's no harm, no foul.
Okay.
Just a lot of waiting. The only problem here, though, is that Meryl is male here, but we're going to need to breed later with the Sea Incense to get Azurill, so while training, I'm just going to make sure to pick up the first female Meryl I see. And yes, we're going to have to RNG Minip for 3 different eggs to breed for, which is a doozy, folks, as it doesn't require just 1 frame-perfect input, but 2. It's a little bit more complex than these simple frame-perfect inputs because of that. I'll get to that later.
Stone
Anyway,
evolves
point,
everything.
Time, and the best place to do so is
that's
right here on
so
Route
smart
117, housing high
to do
EXP
the
heals in
boxes.
Roselia, Illumise, and Volbeat, making it super quick to switch train the likes of the
That's
attackless
smart too.
Abra, evolving into Kadabra at level 16, and Meryl into Azumarill, evolving at level 18. Thankfully, the EXP share...
How will he do trait evolutions? Like, I know there's ROMs that allow you to evolve those trait evils around level 40 or something like that. But I don't know if he is gonna do trait evils at some point. But he's doing like 2 games, Ruby, Sapphire. So probably he's completing 1 and going to the second game. And I don't know what he's going to do with the third game. Probably X, I'm not sure. But we will see.
also lets me switch train and give 75% of the EXP to the Pokemon holding it, so Linoon isn't absorbing a ton of EXP from them, but it's getting the job done a lot faster than what would otherwise be possible with lower level Pokemon compared to the higher level wild Pokemon until they manage to get on their own feet and start knocking them out themselves. I figure from here, I wanted to build up the rare candy collection though, as the highest level evolution for this section is Aron at level 42. So I took Tentacool out for another spin, and thanks to having access to Poison Sting, Cut, Constrict, and Acid all by level 19, it's somewhat easy to train. Of course, these are pretty weak moves, but once we hit Bubble Beam by level 25, it's much easier.
It's so
bringing
easy
it up to level 28
now.
before putting it in the box, just in case we have enough rare candies to push those last 2 levels, swapping out for Oddish. Considering the only moves I get for the entirety of Oddish's training is Absorb and Cut, we're going back to Switch training, though again with the EXP share it's pretty quick to get to level 21, going into Gloom. We'll have to hold off for a little bit to get the Leaf and Sunstones, so I don't have to evolve the other Oddish for the time being. We just wanted to bank it for when we do need it. Next up is Gulpin, who surprisingly gets access to the Ice Beam TM. I did remember to grab the Harbor Mail from Slateport City to get the coin case for this, as now we can get these powerful moves like Flamethrower, Psychic, Thunderbolt, and Ice Beam for the Pokemon that learn them, all while using the money from the dozens of picked up nuggets from this and the previous section. This makes taking out the likes of Roselia, Volbeat, and Illumise a cinch, both for super effective damage on the first since Sludge is neutral, and the other two have access to Charm, which Ice Beam isn't affected by, making it plenty fast enough to evolve into Swalot at level 26. Geodude's next on the docket, having Rock Throw at level 11 for the pesky bugs here, though it still does need switch training for the likes of Meryl and Roselia. Once
Yeah,
we get
fair.
Magnitude at level 16 though, it's much safer to take those on without switching, letting me evolve it into Graveler at level 25. Electrike is next, having access to Thunderbolt via the Game Corner, and we can use it to full effect to zap through basically anything not named Roselia from the get-go. Match that with Tackle and Howl at level 12, and we've got a pretty solid Pokemon at our hands.
And
It
Oddish.
doesn't take long for it to reach level 24, just 2 levels shy of evolving, just in case we happen to have more than enough rare candies for the levels on Aron, and then we can use the extra ones
Is
on
that so
stuff like
bad?
this and Tentacool.
To do
Now
some
for Zubat, which
more?
might seem strange as to why I didn't keep it in the party for friendship gains. And that's all because I wanted the pickup squad to get extra proteins and PowerPoint ups, so I can keep pumping the friendly neighborhood Batman here with as many friendship boosting items as well, including the other obtainable vitamins that are purchasable in Slateport City. The only problem here, though, is that we don't really get a nice attacking move until level 16 with Bite, and only 1 level before evolving does it get Wing Attack, which would have been really convenient to have for the trio of high EXP yields here that are all weak to flying. Those last 2 levels are a cinch though, evolving into Golbat at level 22, and into Crobat 1 level later with High Friendship. From a swift evolution to a more annoying one, as Makihita is just not equipped to take on anything aside from the low EXP yielding Zigzagoons and Merrills, all because of Arm Thrust and Vital Throw being fighting type moves and resisted by the trio of good EXP yields, and Makihita's only normal type attack being Tackle. I mean, we do get Fake Out at level 19, but that's only 5 levels away from evolving and it only can be used on the first turn. So I can't do much else other than switch train or take a long time, evidenced by the literal last wild battle needed to evolve him into Hariyama. I mean, that's taking a long time, but that is ridiculous for a level 23. The second to last here is Goldeen, being the second highest level evolution for this section, and yeah, it's definitely Goldeen. Doesn't hit hard, 0 water type moves until level 38, and that's 5 levels higher than its evolution. It's just a pain to work with. Initially, I was hopeful that Peck would be a great super effective move to out the trio here, but even with some proteins to boost that attack stat, it just took too long to KO anything, especially when Charm was involved. So, switch training was employed quite a bit until level 24. At this point, I have a pretty good surplus of rare candies, so I just fed 9 to Goldeen to evolve into Seeking, and gave Electrike 2 of them to evolve into Manectric.
With Electrike, you can do it.
For now, though, since I'm not sure how well our last trainee will do in Aron. Now on surface level, it does have some great moves and a great typing to either take neutral or resisted damage from everything on this route except for Meryl's Water Gun. Match that with 4 attacking moves by level 13 in Tackle, Mudslap, Headbutt, and Metal Claw, and I'm pretty happy to use a Pokemon that can actually fend for itself. However, just look at how abysmally it performs against Illumise. Sure, we're 2 levels lower and Metal Claw isn't until level 13, but that's still really darn slow. I mean, come on, if you're getting me
Switch
to yawn, that
trend.
means it's too darn slow. Even
Switch
at level
trend.
16, it gets hard-walled, though, and it especially doesn't help that both Illumise and Volbeat have Moonlight, so after setting up Charm, they just heal off all the good damage I did unless I get a lucky Metal Claw attack boost or a critical hit. Alas, I pushed forward until hitting level 28, being 14 levels away from evolving, and considering I have 17 rare candies, that's 14 for Aron to evolve into Lairon and into Aggron, as well as 2 for Tentacool to evolve into Tentacruel, finishing out the pre-badge 2 section with a total of 67 Pokemon and a time of 33 hours and 25 minutes. Despite that explanation making it seem like it would take longer than the first section to complete, just having access to that trio providing around 300 EXP per KO makes things a lot smoother. So with that, I'm able to crush Watson with the power of Swampert, giving me the Dynamo badge and the ability to use Rock Smash outside of battle. Oh, Rock Smash, I was not looking forward to you. So it's time for the dreaded trek back to Granite Cave for the one shiny that's unavailable in any other capacity, Nosepass. Now theoretically,
Ooh,
this should be
Nosepass.
easy enough. Frame 2123 is what it would be if it was the normal cave delay, but I'm dealing with a Linoon whose cry plays whenever I use Rock Smash, so the delay is actually different. B, match that with only a 10% chance of getting an actual Rock Smash encounter, and there's a ton of frames where I can't get a single encounter and therefore can't tell where I messed up. And C, people aren't really looking into the stuff like this because they're like, oh, that's a stupid way of going after that shiny. If you want to go after that, you can go for like Mount Coronet, for instance, and maybe Platinum, so because of course you want to go get Probopass. Thankfully, friend of the channel, Noah, who helped with the Lewis scripts for the Silver and Crystal Shiny franchise Nuzlocke videos, ended up finding that Tropius's Rock Smash animation was 181 frames after pressing A, which gave me a decent window. From that and frame counting the cry of Linoon in comparison to Tropius, we learned that it took 93.54 frames for Linoon's cry to play, whereas 97.74 were needed for Tropius. So I would need to reduce
It's so
my delay
weird
by around
mathing
45
right
frames.
here.
It took me, no joke, about 6 hours to find a singular encounter with Rock Smash, but once I did, this Geodude told all the secrets. This was on frame 2432 with 0 delay, so I was just 39 frames off of Nosepass. So I adjusted my timer, and bam, Nosepass achieved once I finally honed in.
I guess.
Also, is it just me, or did anybody else think that Nosepass's sprite here has its right leg look like its mouth trying to give the good suck? I don't know why I always think that when I see the Gen 3 sprite. It just hasn't changed in over a decade, and I can't unsee it, so I now curse you with this knowledge. Now that we can move on for real, I put the
Okay.
spare Oddish in my party with the EXP share, just so we don't waste the trainers we're going to be running into north of the Rock Smash area on Route 111, and it's actually just enough to get through all trainers before Fiery Path, getting to level 20 and being just shy of Gloom, so I guess we may as well grab some new encounters to soak up the rest of that nice trainer experience. Route 112 has a couple new Pokemon, but Fiery Path has them also, so it doesn't matter, plus they're higher level.
Golfing,
But there we can get a
Numel,
whopping 6 new encounters, with
Grimer,
Slugma on frame 2120, Machop
Pokemon
on
Balls.
2124, Grimer on 2170, Numel on 6040, Coughing on 10780, and Torkoal on 30645. All of them took a few attempts apiece, but it was quite the relief following Nosepass because I really felt like I was just running around with my head cut off like a chicken with that. And hey,
Okay.
with Oddish evolving on the first trainer after, I can go and rotate Gloom out for Slugma since, sheesh, level 38 is going to be quite the trek with very few rare candies left over from the last section. Row 113's just ahead, so after clearing out the
Skarmory,
trainers, I can capture
Sandshrew.
another 3 new encounters in Sandshrew on frame 2124, Skarmory on 2170,
Love that shiny.
and Spinda on 6040.
That's
At
fun.
this point, I really appreciate the low level 22 evolution for Sandshrew by this point, considering we already have multiple Pokemon that have to hit the mid to high 30s. Nothing of interest in Full Arbor Town,
Or
so
40
Route 14's
even.
up next with 2 new encounters, those being Swablu on frame 6047 and Zangoose
Yeah,
on frame
Zangoose.
2127. Oh boy, another mid-30s level evolution with terrible attacking moves. Not looking forward to that one. One batch of trainers later, and I'm in Meteor Falls, housing Soul Rock on frame
Solrock.
2120.
Oh,
However, I
that's
needed
that's
to
fun.
also thief a sunstone off of one of these so I can evolve my Gloom. And thanks once again to the power of RNG manipulation, after a few resets, I'm able to find a Soul Rock on an early frame holding a sunstone, using Thief with Linoon to grab it, as well as the Moonstone on the inside
I mean,
to
fair.
evolve Skitty into Delcatty and Gloom into Blossom. Perfect. And with one
And I
encounter
learned
with Team
something right
Magma
now.
taken care of, we're able to head south of Mount Chimney into the Jagged Pass for the last encounter of the section, Spoink. Thankfully, the highest level one is on encounter
Oh, it's a good
slot
shiny
11 once
too.
again, giving me a level 20 on frame
Look at that.
2137 and taking 4 attempts.
I love that one.
However, just because this is the last encounter doesn't mean it's the last obtainable Pokemon. There's one more thing we need to get in Lava Ridge Town, and that's the Egg Wynot. This one's not the most difficult thing in the world, as there's a documented delay of 166 frames, which I was able to see in I'm a Blissy's Discord server, which is an insanely helpful resource for making sure I wasn't wasting time with messing up delays and such. With that, I was able to get the shiny Wynot egg in 4 attempts, finishing the captures for this section.
That's
now for
insane.
grinding, there's 3 spots that are currently pretty decent depending on type matchups. Route 117 is still an option, as 300 EXP is nothing to scoff at with how plentiful Roselia, Illumise, and I guess Volbeat are, but Volbeat really isn't contributing much there. Route 113 is another great option, as Skarmory is weak to the Nubel and Slugmaline's fire-type moves, while Sandshrew is paper-thin when it comes to special defense. Fiery Path would probably be my 3rd choice, but since we don't really have any water types to go after, I'm probably not going to go in there. First out to the Grindstone is Wynot with no attacking moves, but it evolves a level 15 into Wobbuffet, so there's nothing to worry about when holding the XP share. Sandshrew's
Goofy
up next
guy.
at level 22 for evolution, only needing 6 levels, and was easily able to handle itself against Spinda, though it had trouble with the mirror match with high defense and sand attack, and especially Skarmory due to all of the resistances and Rock Smash not being high enough power to fight back. So I hopped over to Route 114, which yielded better results, evolving into
That's
Sandslash
interesting,
after a
kinda.
while. Third is Machop, which was super easy to take care of due to the super effective
Yeah.
attacks on Spinda, the neutrality against Skarmory, which doesn't have any flying moves at this point, and Sandshrew's defense doesn't really matter in the face of fixed damage Seismic Toss.
Still
letting me
wondering
evolve it
when
into
he's
Choke at
going
level
to do
28
the
without
trade
too much
evolves.
resistance. Speaking of level 28, Slugma's at that level currently and still has a
Probably
very easy time
around-
taking out everything on Route 113, letting me build up my rare candy collection for Coughing and Grimer, likely the most annoying Pokemon in
Gym
the section due
7,
to, well,
I guess.
Gen 1 syndrome. Their learn sets are really, really bad, and they evolve too high of a level for me to want to bash my head against the wall for them. It honestly didn't take as long as I thought it would for it to hit level 38 and evolve into Magcargo. Next up is Spoink, which I forgot to grab the Psychic TM for earlier, but alas, it's doing just fine with Psybeam and Psywave. With the semi-fixed damage of the latter being perfect for taking out Skarmory, which normally resists Psychic-type moves, and Psybeam is more than enough to take out the various Spindas and Sandshrews to eventually hit level 32 and evolve into Grumpig. 4 more to go, so I picked up Grimer, who evolves at level 38, but again suffers from Gen 1 syndrome, as it only gets Sludge and Pound as attacking moves until after it evolves, unless I feed some TMs into it. Thankfully, with Secret and Hidden Power both being unlocked to buy from Slateport City and are now infinitely obtainable after talking to the NPC on Route 111, I'm able to do some pretty decent damage, with Secret Power being a base 70 normal type attack and Hidden Power being base 42 with the Ghost typing.
Oh,
Pair
sure.
that with a base 80 attack stat on Grimer, and I'm able to plow through everything on Route 113 until hitting level 35. Then we use 3
Muck.
rare candies, evolving into Muck. Numel's next for that fire typing, and that's plenty enough for Sandshrew and Skarmory, though it was a little bit more of a struggle to take out Spinda.
Yeah, it's
I
slow
once again
too.
forgot the TMs from the game corner, so I don't have Flamethrower early, which would have been
Helped.
very convenient. So I
Really
decided
helped.
to leave Route 113, grab it, and then head back, and it was way better, to the point where I was setting ablaze to the whole
Sure.
patch of grass, eventually evolving into candy
No
at
shit,
level
man.
33. From here, I've got just enough rare candies to evolve both
But I
Coughing
get
and
it,
Swablu,
it's
the two I was
tedious
most
to do.
hesitant about using due to both of them having terrible learn sets until they evolve. So I just ran up to Mount Chimney and took out the extra trainers that appear there post Team Magma Clearout, which I actually forgot about until this challenge, since I don't think I've ever fought them before. But with that extra EXP accounted for, I just topped off on Dragon Pass before firing off most of my rare candies to evolve Coughing into Wheezing at level 35, and at the same level Swablu into Altaria, finishing the section with a total of 93 Pokemon and a time of 44 hours and 57 minutes. Just a hair under sub 45 hours, and that's the second to last large section of the game. We're more than halfway through the available Pokemon in Ruby version, so we're going along pretty swiftly. With Flannery defeated, I'm able to get the Go Goggles from May, giving me a single area to take out, with all 3 of the available Pokemon having early shiny frames, those being Cacnea on frame 2127, Trapinch on 2131, and Baltoy on 2177. Of course, there's still one more Pokemon to grab, so I headed up to the northeast section of the desert to grab the Claw Fossil, as Anorith is a lot easier to train compared to Lily. All I've got to do is head back to Rustboro City, and since this has the same 166 frame delay as the Wynot Egg, I just have to nail the frame 2277 to nab my shiny Anorith in 2 resets. That's it. Pretty cut and dry, so it's time for the grind. I started off with Anorith as all of these evolutions are high level, and thanks to access to Water Gun, I started off in Fiery Path, seeing as Torkoal yields a pretty high amount of experience, with level 16 giving off 368 EXP each, though the rest of them aren't exactly the best in terms of great EXP amounts, but of course, considering the fact that we have access to Water and Rock type moves, it's pretty good. Thanks to the power of Protein, Secret Power, and Hidden Power Ghost as well, I've got more than enough in the tank to bring him up to level 34 before firing off 6 rare candies, getting to level 40 and evolving into Armaldo. Second on the list is Cacnea, which I should have a much easier time on Route 111 doing so, having Sand Veil in the Sandstorm to dodge attacks, while having access to Absorb for the ground types and Pin Missile for the mirror match. Secret Power also fills out the moveset with Poison Sting, being there I guess, good enough for Cacnea if needed, and it's more than enough for me to bring it up to level 32 and evolve into Cacturn. Third up is Trapinch, and while yes, it does by far have the highest level of evolution in 45, Baltoy is much more difficult to train here, so I wanted to see if I could bait more rare candies using it. I tried Route 111, didn't work, but Route 117 worked a lot better despite the Merrills and Roselias of the world. Dig, Secret Power, Bite, and Feint Attack are more than enough to plow through, getting to level 29 before swapping
the para is so
I'm not
annoying.
too happy about it, but Route 117 should be weak enough for me to run through without too much effort. Having caught it at level 22, I have access to Mud Slap, Psybeam, Rock Tomb, and Self-Destruct, so I cut Mud Slap and Self-Destruct for Hidden Power and Secret Power, and that seemed like it was plenty enough, as Psybeam easily dispatches Roselia, Rock Tomb does enough to take care of Illumise and Volbeat, giving me enough strength to run through, getting Baltoy to level 29, using 7 rare candies before evolving into Claydol, then using 16 on Trapinch to evolve into Vibrava at level 35, and into Flygon at 45, finishing the section in front of Brawly with a total of 102 Pokemon and a time of 50 hours and 41 minutes. Almost 6 hours for 4 Pokemon is kind of disappointing, but considering we had 2 level 40 plus evolutions, 1 level 36 and a 32,
it's kind of
I can't
fair,
really
I guess.
Brawly's
It's
torn to
not
shreds
that
with the power of Flygon, putting the Knuckle Badge in my collection.
crazy.
Oh, and there's no Pokemon.
You could have saved some rare candies on some other Pokemon, like Tentacool. You could have leveled those 2 levels or something that you needed for it. Just by training it a little bit longer. Like, you saved some time, but you wasted some time in the end. Because you could have used that 2 rare candies on a different kind of Pokemon. And that made a little bit more sense. Like Electrike is the same situation. You could have leveled just the 2 levels that already goes pretty fast. So, I mean, it's hard.
Between here and Norman, so we may as well add the balance badge to the collection as well. Thank you, Dig, by the way, on Flygon for taking advantage of slacking truant turns. On to the last large section of the game. With Surf available outside of battle, there's a lot to cover. Winona's badge isn't needed due to it only unlocking Fly outside of battle, and Sootopolis isn't available until I get the box legendary, so that just leaves me with Tate and Liza. There's a whopping 57 Pokemon in this section, so we better get moving. First up, Route 115 to the north of Rustboro City has a single new Pokemon available in Jigglypuff on frame 2131, taking 2 resets. We do need a female one for breeding, which thankfully this one is, so we're in the clear as it's in the same egg group as Plusle, which is male, so we're set with this one. Next stop on the list before crossing the water is New Mauville, and hilariously, I don't have to evolve anything in here. Magnemite's on frame 2127, Magneton on 2177, Voltorb on 6047, and Electrode on frame 238,827.
That's
I know,
high.
it's stupid to wait instead of evolving Voltorb, but what can I say? I'd rather just not have to evolve something if I don't have to. Thankfully, that only took 1 attempt, but the other 3 took a few each before I was able to shut down the area and emerge. And hey, again, that's a great for a shiny living dex project. I'm not sure if I'll completely pursue it, but I'm on a kick with these lately. It's been pretty fun, actually. There's just one more thing we need to grab before progressing into new areas, and sure, I am crossing the water on Route 118, but only to grab the good rod before immediately heading back for a small fishing trip. There's 4 encounters for me here, those being Barboach on Route 111 on frame 2177, since I didn't want to wait another 9,000 frames for one that was just 2 levels higher. Next
and
up,
on which
Whalmer
cache?
on Route 103 on the same frame, Corefish on Route 102 again on the same frame, and lastly Carvana on Route 118.
I love Carvana shiny so
At level
much.
18, which
So
isn't
good.
too bad when there's so many new trainers to take out and get that 1.5 times experience compared to wild battles. For some reason though, all of the fishing encounters gave me a bit of trouble in terms of how many times I needed to encounter to finally get it. They all took like 6+ resets to find them, so I'm glad I didn't take the time to get those slightly higher level shinies, since that would have taken a lot more wasted time on my hands. Speaking of those trainers though, there were so many new ones available between Petalburg City and Slayport City, so I was able to bring up Barboach to level 30, evolving into Whiscash. I swapped it out for Carvana, took out the remainder of those trainers, and finally headed out east of Mauville. No new encounters just yet, since I want to clear out the trainers here, evolving Carvana into Sharpedo at level 30, and swapping out for Corefish right before taking out Courtney in the weather.
It's not fitting.
It's slots for cast form yet, so I'll grab that later.
It's fine, but also not fine. I don't know. I love Carvana even more.
Going after more encounters. There's nothing new on Route 118 that isn't just higher level on 119, so I just got Kecleon and Tropius to grab, with the former on frame 2177 and the latter on 30,652. A little delayed, but 30,000 frames isn't the most inconvenient amount of time to wait. Speaking of which, I'm actually trying to route out an Emerald Nuzlocke featuring the Battle Frontier, which might sound absolutely insane when you're considering all of the gold symbols, but looking at the amount of frames it takes to get certain Pokemon with ideal IVs and natures and hidden power types, I can just tell you 30,000 frames is nothing when I'm looking at a Latios that's modest with a hidden power fire at 70 power, taking 1.3 billion frames. That's 250 days of real time. That project is going to take way too long. But I will say thank you guys again for coming out to the Donathon for the franchise Nuzlocke Shiny Only Season 2, as that was one of my incentives, and being able to route it out has just been really interesting, since I don't think anybody else has tried a straight-up hardcore Nuzlocke through everything in Emerald, so I'm really looking forward to trying it out. Tangents aside, actually, there's one more thing. I just feel like pointing this out, but why is Kecleon's shiny form so underwhelming? I was under the impression that the purple Kecleon that you see in Mystery Dungeon was the shiny form, but I suppose not. Tropius is also way too yellow here. I would have loved if the shiny ended up having more of a fall coloration. Something like red leaves in the body being a little darker of a yellow-orange with a hint of brown. It would have been absolutely perfect, but I guess so. Apart. Last thing here is a leaf stone, which I can use to evolve Gloom into Vileplume once I'm back in Fortree City. While I'm still in the area, I went ahead and did a few resets for cast form, thankfully with the same 166 frame delay as Wynot and Anorith, only taking about half a dozen resets before hitting.
Not gonna lie, Feebas will be like kinda free, I guess, for him, since he can already tile out the Feebas style, and right there he can like manipulate the tile to shine, I guess.
Hitting the proper frame to obtain my piss-eyed head with balls. God, cast form's just an enigma of a design. Who decided to make this? It's almost as bad as Reshiram's penis. Actually, there is something worse.
Does he?
Yeah, we get to do this. Thankfully, there's an easy tile calculator which requires both my trainer ID and trendy phrase, which I go back to Dewford Town to see. Lousy viewing. Sounds like you're trying to insinuate something. But hey, I can grab the TM for Sludge Bomb while I'm there, so nothing lost on that one if it saves me time for a future grind. That'll be much appreciated. Then again, I don't have any more poison types in this challenge, so I highly doubt it. I just have to make myself feel better about forgetting another detail that I didn't take note of. Anyway, with the trendy phrase in hand, I plugged it into the calculator, which I'll leave in the description if you want to use it yourself, showing me the proper tile. Now, using the old rod is the easiest one here, as it only requires a single A press before hooking a Pokemon, as opposed to the good rod taking up to 3 A presses, or waiting for the super rod. However, I noticed there was a problem. I ended up aiming for frame 2127 for the first shiny, that being Tentacool, and I ended up finding not 1, 2, 3, 4, or even 5 shiny Tentacools. I found 6 of them before thinking, I think Tentacool frames can't yield Feebas. And sure enough, when I moved to frame 6047 for Magikarp, the first attempt there was Feebas. Well, so much for the wasted time, but I guess I'll take them. I also made sure to grab the Kelpsy berries before
he kinda learned about
so
that.
I should be set from here for Feebas. At this point, though, I
the
just
end.
want to make more progress by clearing out as much story as I can, taking out enough trainers to evolve Corphish into Crawdon at level 30, finally swapping out for Whalmer, and leaving me to take out everybody on Route 120, 121, the Mayfight in Lily Cove, Mount Pyre, Route 123, the Trick House, the Lily Cove Magma Hideout, the Moss Deep Gym Trainers, really just basically everything that's available now, before evolving Whalmer into Wailord at level 40. Well, with nothing else to grind for now, I may as well go back to do the rest of my encounters up to this point. Heading back to Route 121 nets me Duskull on frame 10,787, and that red is really nice on
Yeah, it is.
It looks so good.
It's so fucking
Route
hot.
120 houses Absol on frame 30,652, a little long in the...
I can't... Wait, go back. I can like this Absol coloring. I wished it was like more gray or black fur instead of the white.
I dig the red on the shiny Absol as well. All 3 sections of Mount Pyre also have new encounters, with Shuppet being
but
on
I don't
the
know
inside on
how
the
it looks
6th floor
like
on frame
otherwise.
2177, the exterior having Vulpix on frame 2127 and
Why was it that so bright? I can't remember it was so bright.
Meditite on 10,787, which just leaves the summit and the 2% Chimecho encounter, conveniently in slot 11, and therefore frame 2177. Well, that's 2 Pokemon to grind, and one that I, of course, forgot the Firestone in the Fiery Path for. I'll grab it along with the Pokeblock case over in Slateport, because, uh-oh, I also forgot about that for the Safari Zone. The Pokeblock case also makes Feebas capable of evolving, so after grinding up those Kelpsy berries along with a few Chesto berries, I'm able to feed just enough Pokeblocks to Feebas and using a rare candy to evolve it into Milotic. I've been all over the place. I think it's about time I do a whole area at one time, that being the Safari Zone. There is a metric boatload of Pokemon in here. As for the southeast area, I can grab Doduo on frame 2176, Girafarig on frame 10,802, Natu on frame 14,172, and Accidental Wobbuffet on frame 30,651 that runs away. Whoopsie, at least the second one I do manage to capture, and then a male Pikachu on frame 30,649.
Isn't there wild
status immediately to evolve into Raichu. I do need a female one for breeding, though that's not a problem when it's easy enough to RNG manipulate a non-shiny female. Next up, the northeastern area, which requires the Acrobike, with another chunk of encounters, those being Phanpy on frame 2130, using 1 rare candy on it to evolve into Donphan, then 1 on Natu to evolve into Xatu, and Heracross on frame 30,651. These all took multiple resets each, but thankfully I managed to capture them all without needing to encounter a second shiny. From here, I can go back to grab the Mach Bike before tackling the northwestern section, capturing Dodrio on frame 30,649, since I was going after Pinsir on 30,651, and we got yet another accidental shiny in Gloom on frame 2126, as I was gunning for Rhyhorn on 2130. All good. Again, it's a benefit of the shiny living dex, but I didn't expect to have this happen so many times in exactly the Safari Zone. All that remains, though, is Psyduck, being a surfing encounter in the southwestern area, hitting frame 2176 for level 30, so that 3 rare candies evolves it into Golduck. Finally, out of the Safari Zone. I spent multiple hours in there, and that was probably my second worst Safari Zone experience ever. The first was waiting 100 days for Gibble in my Harcold Silver Professor Oak's challenge that I did several years ago, and no, I'm not doing that one again with only shinies. Please, I need to consider my sanity. Well, it's back to trading up Pokemon with the remaining traders on the water routes, evolving Duskull into Dusclops at level 37, and Meditite into Medicham also at level 37, while also making pretty good progress on Shuppet before going back to captures. Shoal Cave is the next target just north of Moss Deep City, housing a level 32 Spheal on frame 2124, and because it's low tide in the depths of the cave of the Ice Room, I can grab a level 30 Snorunt on frame 2170. One more fishing tour, though, is required with the Super Rod, which I managed to grab from Moss Deep, finishing out the encounters for this section with Staryu in Lily Cove on frame 2131, and Wow,
Really?
I really shouldn't have wasted that experience on Whalmer.
Oh no,
Level
wait,
42
there's only
one was available
Frostless.
on frame 2177 here, so that would have been something I used a single rare candy on. Whoopsie. Anyway, there's 3 more Super Rod encounters, 2 of them at the base of Evergrande City, grabbing Corsola on frame 2131,
Ooh, love that one.
and Love Disc on 6000.
I love that one too.
Finally ending on Horsey on Route 132
I love that
on
one
frame
too.
2131,
In that
finishing the
sprite at
captures
least.
for this section. All that remains are the 3 baby Pokemon I need to breed for, and the remaining evolutions, of course. There's still a lot of trainers I haven't taken out on routes 132 to 134 due to the currents making me have to circle around the whole region without access to fly, but there's enough to push Shuppet to level 36, so I just use 1 rare candy to evolve him into Bayonet. Turns out I forgot the Firestone again though, but this time I finally remembered to grab it from the Fiery Path, heading back to Mauville to evolve Vulpix into Ninetales.
I love
Now for the
Ninetales
grinding,
shiny.
I decided to use Route 111 once again, as the majority of what I need to grind are water types. And since
Ah,
they
yeah,
don't get
sure.
access to Ice Beam from the Mauville game corner,
that's-
it's super free to just slap
I
down
guess
Surf on
smart.
all of them, running through the Pokemon on the route until I realized that, wow, Sandveiled Cactia is really annoying, so I shift over to the Fiery Path, since everything is super effective and Torkoal is still a good EXP farm, allowing me to evolve Horsey into Seadra at level 32,
works either way.
Steel into Celio into single level, then bringing it up to level 43 before using a single rare candy to evolve into Walrein. Snorunt, though, is a bit more of a fit for Route 111 since it doesn't get any of those water-type moves that Horsey and Spheal got. So I'm able to just throw it Ice Beam, get some calciums and proteins, then just plow through and get to level 38 before using 4 rare candies to finish it off, evolving into Glalie. Oh yeah, and at this point I have
I like
plenty
that
enough
red
rare
eyes.
candies to just straight up evolve Rhyhorn into Rhydon, using 15 of them to push to level 42. Now
That's a
then,
lot.
all we got left is the breeding. Firstly, I made sure
But
to grab
sure.
the Sea Incense from Mount Pyre for Azurill, giving it to the female Meryl, and throwing that in with my shiny male Azumarill. Now, breeding requires 2 frame-perfect inputs while also hatching the egg to confirm what you received was shiny. Pokefinder makes this easy enough to hatch what you're looking for by inputting the IVs of both parents as well as their compatibility. In my case, the fact that both of them don't like each other. Though there's still frames where they're willing to f out of boredom, providing a shiny egg and eventually allowing me to pummel some twins with overleveled monsters. For Azurill, I have to first use a Super Repel. It's better to use a Max Repel, but I'm capable of counting to 54, and I'm too lazy to grab those. Then deposit both Azumarill and Meryl into the daycare, walk around for 254 steps, as eggs are generated every 255 steps, then save the game, soft reset, and take the last step on the held advance. In my case, it's 1013 frames. Once we do that, we can step outside, save in front of the old man who will give us the egg, then hatch it. I finally managed to score Azurill after 4 attempts of this, then did the same thing with my male shiny Raichu and
That's
female
so
Pikachu I got
insane
out of the Safari
hard.
Zone to hatch Pichu,
Or
then my male Bustle and
complicated.
female Jigglypuff to hatch Igglybuff, all of which had the same held advance of 1013 frames, and waiting 1118 to pick up the egg so that it would generate as shiny. Adding 3 more to the total and finishing the section in front of Taytaliza with a total of 159 Pokemon and a time of 67 hours and 18 minutes. There's only 18 more Pokemon to go in this challenge, so we're in the home stretch. Though we're now in Legendary territory, and that's going to be terrifying once we hit the level 70 Rayquaza,
Relicanth,
severely under
Rich
level.
Rock, Rich Steel,
With
Rich
Taytaliza
Ice,
devastated in the HM dive being useful outside
Rayquaza,
of battle, there's a few new
Kyogre,
encounters we can come across,
Groudon,
all of which are available underwater on Route 146,
Lantern,
letting me get Chinchou on
and
frame
Chinchou, of
2127,
course.
Relicanth on 2177, and Clamperl on
Clamperl.
6047.
And
Chinchu's also only
double
a single level away from
Clamperl.
evolving, so I can take care of that shortly, but there's still a few things I need to do with Dive, namely getting shards to trade for evolution stones, as I'm in need of a water stone costing a blue shard, and a leaf stone costing a green shard, so that I can evolve Nuzleaf into Shiftry and Staryu into Starmie. Perfect, and now I can take Dive once more to the Seafloor Cavern so I can level up Chinchou once in there to evolve into Lantern, taking out Maxie
Ogres.
and leaving only 3 Pokemon for this section: Groudon, Regirock, and Regice. The first of which is obvious, just head into the Cave of Origin and save just 1 tile away from interacting with Groudon. Then there's a 654 frame delay between the red orb glowing and the encounter being rolled. It takes me 3 tries, but as they say, 3rd time's the charm, and I've gotten myself a shiny Groudon by hitting frame 1789. Fun fact, this is not my first shiny Groudon. I had a video several years back where I did the minimum battles required to beat Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, and somehow, without RNG manipulation, I managed to roll a shiny Groudon on the first encounter. I wish I could have done that here, but 3 is completely fine.
He didn't many.
With Flygon, using Dragon Breath both to bring them into the red and
He
for the
did it
paralysis,
like
then just
regularly.
chucking an Ultra Ball and
So
wow, I
it's
almost had that
just
one
a
shot.
random
That would've been
shiny
pretty neat,
Groudon.
but alas, it takes a baker's dozen
So,
Ultra Balls
first
to nab the
encounter.
Continental Titan, leaving me to go after the 2 of the 3 Regis available. Registeel, of course, requires me to have access to fly outside of battle, so I gotta wait until after Winona is defeated. But for now, I can unlock the chambers by heading to Route 134, diving in with Wailord in the first slot and Relicanth last, then examining the Braille at the back of the area to unlock their chambers. We can go ahead and find Regirock in the Desert Ruins on Route 111, and with it being level 40, I think it's plenty safe enough to bring in some of my sleepers like Slacking, who still has Yawn, while Relicanth conveniently has it as well. If needed though, I can just go with Paralysis via Flygon's Dragon Breath. The Regis only have a 56 frame delay between pressing A and rolling the encounter, so by hitting frame 2387, I've nailed myself a shiny
Look at
Regirock.
that,
Dragon Breath doesn't
Reggie.
paralyze
Love
as it
it.
brings it into the low yellow, so I swap for Slacking, put it to sleep with Yawn, then use Slash to bring it into the red as its defense is sky high and even a crit at this low of HP when it KO'd, finally starting to lob Ultra Balls at it and alternatively healing Slacking to keep my bulkiest Yawn user alive. It took 2 dozen Ultra Balls, but Regirock was finally captured, leaving just Regice for this section. Route 105 is the home of the ancient tomb housing the Frozen Titan, which requires me to stand in place for 2 minutes before it unlocks. Huh, crazy to think this was a puzzle in 2003 and now it's just a standard practice in mobile games. Wait around for more lives so you can actually do the thing you want to do. Play the game. Either way, the shiny coloration of Regice is spectacular because I love the deep hue of blue you get in comparison to the dull color of the normal variant. So I'm more than happy to shut this thing down with Dragon Breath, putting it in red health and paralyzing
It's all
Flygon before
ugly
swapping
shiny
for Glalie to
though.
resist
Sorry,
Icy
but
Wind, nailing an Ice Beam to bring it
it's
deeper
really
into red before
ugly.
lobbing Ultra Balls once again. Gotta admit, yet another item I appreciated pickup for. I saved a ton of money by just getting a collection of over 100 of these during the course of the game. Here it only takes a dozen Ultra Balls to grab Regice. Huh. Groudon's a baker's dozen.
I hope it
Regirock's
was
2 dozen,
sarcastic.
and Regice is a normal dozen. Funny coincidence. Either way, that's the last encounter of this
Yeah,
section, leaving
I
me
guess.
to enter Wallace's gym and save in front of him with a total of 168 Pokemon, almost nice, and a time of 69 hours, actual nice, and 21 minutes. I don't quite wipe
69,
the floor with them, as my
nice.
highest level Pokemon are now on par with this point in the game, but it's nothing I can't take care of since this isn't a Nuzlocke. I can use items in battle with no cares in the world. Now, the only badge remaining between me and the Elite Four is the Feather Badge, but we went after Wallace first because Waterfall is now usable outside of battle, granting me access to the furthest cave of Meteor Falls to capture Bagon. Now, while I could grab a level 25 Bagon on frame 11,610, I figured I'd wait the extra 69,000 frames for a level 35, because 10 levels is pretty worth it at this point in the game. I'm running empty on rare candies, and that's only an extra 19-minute wait for 10 levels that I don't have to grind. So don't mind if I do. Ooh, and a free Dragon Scale? You shouldn't have. Now I can get myself a shiny Kingdra once this challenge is over, since of course I can't trade with other games until it's over. Now for grinding Bagon, I figured I'd look in the Trainer's Eyes feature on the Pokénav just to see if there's anybody I can fight again and get faster EXP than from wild Pokemon, and there's actually a ton of them. Enough for Bagon to evolve into Shelgon in a single level, finally bringing him to level 40 off the TV Reporter Double Battle on Route 120, using 10 rare candies to evolve into Salamence, and saving in front of Winona with a total of 171 Pokemon, and 70 hours and 50 minutes on the timer. Huh, an hour and a half for a level 50 evolution. I really can't complain about that. I tear her birds to shreds with the power of Salamence, finally opening up the door, but we still have Registeel to take care of. Over on Route 120, I can head into the final chamber using Fly
that Winona
in the
isn't
room to
beated.
unlock the back area, using the same delay as Regirock and Regice to encounter the shiny on frame 2387. Salamence is high enough level to survive quite a few attacks, using the likes of Dragon Claw and Headbutt to slowly whittle away its HP, finally putting it down into low red HP before swapping it to Relicanth to hit Yawn, putting it to sleep, and lobbing balls. I was really close to getting it with the third ball, getting 3 shakes, but no dice. Instead, it takes a dozen Ultra Balls. I'm so confused. What is with this trend? But with that, that's all we need before the Elite Four. So I fly back to Mauville, pick up TMs for the Legendaries and Dragons I'll be bringing through, dodging all optional trainers in Victory Road, taking out Wally, and entering the league with 172 Pokemon and 71 hours 33 minutes on the clock. Now, I'm curious if I can do this in less than 75 in-game hours. It's gonna be a little bit of a miracle considering Rayquaza's at level 70, but I'm gonna push for it. The league goes well enough, pushing through despite my level disadvantage, but thanks to revives, full restores, and enough super effective attacks, I'm eventually able to take out Steven, becoming the Pokemon League champion with only 5 Pokemon standing between me and victory. Now first things first, as soon as I arrive back home, it's time to spawn the roaming Latios. I save in front of the TV with a 2-frame delay aiming to hit frame 2441 so that Latios spawns shiny. From there, I can just fly to Slateport, go in and out of the cycling road entrance while spamming super repels with one of the Reggies as my lead to bait the level 40 out of hiding. It takes 4 resets, but Latios finally shows himself green, allowing me to fire off the Master Ball. Admittedly, it might have been safer to just whittle him down and paralyze it with Dragon Breath, or maybe put it to sleep, so that I could save the Master Ball for the level 70 Rayquaza, but
maybe
honestly, I do
Nuke.
not want to deal with a roaming Pokemon longer than I have to. Would probably take me above the 75
Because
hours
of
I'm shooting
Nuke,
for.
he's not allowed to
Plus,
run away.
Sure, this is a very cold take. Roamers are just
You have
frankly annoying
Crobat.
and not a fun mechanic. Very happy that they got rid of these
Crobat
in Gen
outspeed him.
7. God, it took until Gen 7? Yeah, if you recall, the legendary birds from Kanto you had to run into 10 times before you were allowed to catch them in X and Y. It was horrid. Hopefully they don't reference that in ZA, now that would really suck. But I digress, just one more gift Pokemon and Rayquaza remain. Headed back to Moss Deep City, I'm able to enter Steven's house, saving in front of the Beldum Pokeball, hitting it on the 3rd attempt to see the metallic silver beauty in my party once I hit frame 2277. Of course, with this evolution being level 45, I need to once again grind up rare candies, but decided first to bring it through the Elite Four so that once it would evolve into Metang, doing so after the fight with Glacia, I would be able to get it into a position to where it could take on Pokemon by itself on Route 117. It gets up to level 27 by the time Steven's defeated, leaving just 18 more levels between me and Rayquaza. This is more than enough to hold its own without switch training, leaving the other 5 slots for my Linoon and for Zigzagoon. They end up putting in great work here, as I just need to bring Metang up to level 36 before firing off my last 9 rare candies to evolve into Metagross. Alright, one final challenge, Sky Pillar. I'm bringing my team of Metagross, Salamence, Slacking, Regice, Flygon, and Glalie. Metagross and Glalie have access to Flash, lowering the accuracy, with the former resisting all of Ray's attacks, and the latter being able to hit it for quad effective damage, which should be enough to not KO considering the 28 level difference, but not wasting turns on minimal damage and leaving me less time to capture before struggle finally starts happening. Flygon and Salamence can also do good damage to it, assuming I've hit enough flashes to prevent an outrage from connecting. Regice has a great special defense as Dragon is special in Gen 3. Just sits there,
I'm
hits
so
it for 4
interested
times
to
damage,
see
it's an
how long this
asshole,
one will
and of
take.
course Slacking has Yawn, so
Not
I think
long,
I'm as
I guess.
prepared as I can physically get without needless grinding. There's only a 3-frame delay for Rayquaza's encounter to be rolled, so I aim for frame 2440, and in only 2 tries I managed to nail it, seeing the fearsome Yellow Eyes Black Dragon. So close yet so far away. Jokes aside, this is a pretty tense fight, as I'm wasting a ton of early turns with full restores on Metagross, hoping that Rayquaza either misses with Outrage or hits itself from fatigue, which it eventually does succumb to, letting me set up enough flashes for the rest of my party to come in safely and do what they need to do. However, Rayquaza has Rest. That's not something I accounted for. Regice is able to do just under half damage with a low roll Ice Beam, letting me either get another one off or use Thunderbolts to close the gap, and we have to keep repeating the cycle after I fire off only a single Ultra Ball, since it usually uses Rest after it goes below half health. However, I get ridiculously lucky here, using exactly 5 Ultra Balls on extremely low HP and while Rayquaza's asleep, nailing the capture
Let's
and finishing
go.
the challenge with 177
That's sick.
Pokemon in the dex, and with a time of 74 hours
That's
and
actually sick.
29 minutes. This might have been the most stressful Professor Oak's challenge video I've ever made, mostly because of A, not being familiar with RNG manipulation whatsoever before attempting to make this video, and B, the constant dread of missing frame-perfect inputs, which just kept giving me agita over and over again, which is probably why I missed so many. I'll even say C, I haven't done one of these in like 2 years, which is kind of
There's a
shame,
cat
but I'm
here
thankful that I'm getting
in my
back
nose.
into it. But with that, I hope you all enjoyed the
It's
video.
so random.
I'm really happy to have
Oh, that's the
finally done
video?
one of these in a shiny only variant. I've seen a couple of people.
He didn't do them. I mean, yeah, it's a normal Professor Oak. It's not the entire dex. So I mean, I got
We'll
it.
do this on the subreddit r/Professor Oak, which you guys should go follow, by the way, if you're interested in trying
Wait,
this challenge
no.
yourself, or a regular variant.
It's an
because
entire
I do
dex,
not
right?
expect anybody to want to give this a shot unless you're a dedicated shiny hunter, as this was a hell of a grind to try to finish. But who knows? Maybe I'll do some more RNG manipulation shiny only oak challenges in the future.
I'm
Maybe with
interested.
Gens 3 through 5 as well as Gen 8, seeing as those are the ones that are most documented thanks
And I
to
need
Poke
still to take a fucking piss.
Hey folks, Endcard Meatball here. Thanks for checking out the video. If you enjoyed
You're
it, make sure to
welcome.
subscribe and like, plus check out this other video on screen. You'll probably enjoy it too. And if you really enjoyed the
There's no
content,
video,
and wanna help
man.
me produce more content like this, make sure to become a channel member,
Man.
leave a super
Come
thanks in
on.
the comments below, and check out today's sponsor, Manta Sleep, again the link in the description, or grab something from Gamersups using my code ChaoticMeat at checkout. Every little bit helps, and it keeps
Guys, thanks for watching. It's a really long video. Yeah, it's really long. Like, subscribe. Check out Chaotic Meatball in the description below. And I see you all in the next one. So see you later. Ciao, ciao.